Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Magnet Warrior Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. Wanted to update the Magnet Warriors. They're always been one of my favorite decks to come out of the many different cards that Yugimoto used, being a deck that focuses on getting your setup for your needed Magnet Warriors to then be able to summon out your different Magna Warriors or your Fusion Monster Empyrean, the Magnum, the superconductive battle bot, to the field using those Magna Warriors. It's just a pretty consistent search and setup rock type of deck that you use with the many different Magnet Warriors that we've gotten throughout the years. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the original Magnet Warriors, we're running one copy of each. That's really all we need for the original Magnet Warriors. We have Delta and Epsilon as also, I would say, a little bit better level 4 setups for the Magnet Warriors to be able to summon off of our Electromagnet Warriors, but I still like to run the original 3 at just a 1-of copy count to have those additional targets to summon out onto the field also. For the Electromagnet Warriors, we're running 3 copies of Beta, the Electromagnet Warrior. If this card's normal or special summon, you can add 1 level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior from your deck to your hand, except for Beta, the Electromagnet Warrior. You can only use this effect of Beta once per turn, and during your opponent's turn, you contribute this card to special summon 1 level 4 Magnet Warrior monster from your deck. This is a quick effect, so just having this option to then grab your Magnet Warrior of choice during your opponent's turn can just give you more of that setup depending on the Magnet Warrior that you also summon out to the field. But just having that search power for your level 4 lower Magnet Warrior just continues your plays for each other Magnet Warrior that you also have. We're also running 3 copies of Alpha, the Electromagnet Warrior. With this card, if it's normal or special summon, you can add 1 level 8 Magna Warrior from your deck to your hand. You can use this effect of Alpha once per turn, and then during your opponent's turn, you contribute this card to special summon a level 4 Magna Warrior from your deck, being a quick effect. So the Magna Warriors are the 2 bigger boss monsters that we run in the deck, our Berserkion, the Electromagna Warrior, and our Valkyrion, the Magna Warrior. Having searches for both of those also makes it easier for us to set up our fusion play, because it just has to be fusion some of the above materials. They don't have to properly be on the field. To summon this card out, we just have the 2 Magna Warriors in our hand and then use them for the fusion play. With the last of the Electromagnet Warriors being 2 copies of Gamma, the Electromagnet Warrior. I only run 2 copies of this because it special summons 1 from your hand, except Gamma. So you can use that resource from your hand to summon another one out, but you already have the pre-existing card in your hand to begin with. So just 2 Gamma for that search. For the next Magnet Warriors, 3 copies of Delta, the Magnet Warrior. If it's normal or special summon, you can send 1 level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior from your deck to your hand. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish 3 level 4 Magnet Warrior monsters from your graveyard, except for Delta the Magnet Warrior. Special summon 1 Valkyrion the Magnet Warrior from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. You only use the effect of Delta the Magnet Warrior once per turn, but that summon of Valkyrion, by getting around the summon restrictions, can help to get us this bigger boss monster on the field, but also just the big play of setting up the Magnet Warriors. Thanks to Delta being a special summon play, you can also just have your other Magnet Warrior be a tribute, summoning your Delta onto the field, and then getting your send and sent from there. So if you have enough of the Magnet Warriors in the graveyard, you can then use that banish after your opponent tries to get around the Delta the Magnet Warrior on the field. And then also the 3 copies of Epsilon, the Magnet Warrior. If it's normal or special summon, you can send 1 level 4 lower Magnet Warrior monster from your deck to the graveyard, except for Epsilon. And then this card's name becomes the set monster's name to the end of this phase. And then until the end phase, then you can special summon 1 Magnet Warrior or Magna Warrior monster from your graveyard with a different name than the cards you control. Grabbing you that additional resource back from the graveyard can once again just extend your plays using your Epsilon on the field to continue to do so. For the Magna Warriors, I run 2 copies of Berserkion and 1 copy of Valkyrion. Berserkion has the much better effect. Valkyrion is mostly just a setup card, because then you contribute it to summon back Alpha, Beta, and Gamma from your graveyard to the field. So just extended resources if you get this card out. And then also with Berserkion, it cannot be normal summon or set, must be special summon from your hand by banishing 1 Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, the Electromagnet Warrior, from your graveyard and or face up from your monster zone. You can banish 1 level 4 lower Magnet Warrior from your graveyard, target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. And if this card is destroyed by battle or in someone's possession, destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target 1 of each of your banished Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, the Electromagnet Warrior, and special summon. So almost like a reverse option of Valkyrion on the field, giving you those banished cards back as special summon resource while Valkyrion works from the graveyard. For additional rock resources, I also run the 3 copies of Catherine, the Hidden Gem of the Seafront. You can discard this card to normal summon 1 earth or water monster during your main phase in addition to your normal summoner set. You can use this effect once per turn. And if you control an earth and water monster while this card is in, and if you control an earth and water monsters while this card's in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. It's mostly just used for that additional normal summon. If you use cards like your Beta, the Electromagnet Warrior, to grab a search for another Magnet Warrior, you can then discard the Catherine from your hand to then summon out that additional monster for your normal summon. Just continue your Magnet resources, which is one of the things it definitely does need, just that additional summon in the deck to continue your plays to do so. I also run 2 copies of Doki Doki. Just, you have targets for whatever Magnet Warrior you may have. For the discard, being able to summon a different one from the same name, rock, and attribute. So then it sets up one in your graveyard, then giving you the one that you summon off of Doki Doki to be able to use also. With the last of our main deck monsters, I just run the 1 copy of Nibiru. This is because we run the Gallant Granite Search. So it's just a 1 of Rock Search to be able to add this card as more of a way to work around your opponent's plays when they know you have the Nibiru in your hand to use. For these spells, running 3 copies of Magnet Induction. If you control a Magnet Warrior monster whose original level is 4 or lower, special summon 1 level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster from your deck with a different name than the cards you control. Also, for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, Magnet Warrior and Magnet Warrior monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effect. So very, very useful protection card for your Magnet Warriors, but it just gives you, once again, another extended search for those Magnet Warriors for you to be able to use. I also run the 3 copies of Adamancipator Signs. You target a rock monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense. So that's the main play of this card. You don't really have much to go off of for the Adamancipator effect, but being able to use this for just being able to summon out another rock monster from your graveyard, using the special summon effect as well to continue your plays from there. And then for the 1-ofs for the spells, I run the, well, before the 1-ofs, we'll go over the last 2 of, and that is 2 copies of Polymerization, just so we have the fusion card needed to be able to summon out our Empyrean Magnum, the superconductive battle bot, to the field. For the 1-ofs, 1 copy of Magnetic Field. If you control a level 4 lower Earth Rock monster, you can target 1 level 4 lower Magnum Warrior monster in your graveyard, special summon it. You can use this effect once per turn, and once per turn at the end of the damage step, when an Earth Rock monster you control battles an opponent's monster, the opponent's monster is not destroyed. You can turn that opponent's monster to the hand. So more of a bounce effect. It's just more of that setup and resources for your different Magnet Warriors. The 1 Monster Reborn, in addition to the Adamancipator Signs, the 1 Call by the Grave, and then the 1 Foolish Burial to give us more of a special summon target for cards like Epsilon when we use them also. And then for the traps, I run 1 copy of Magnet Conversion and then the 1 copy of Rivalry of Warlords, mostly for the fact that we just have rocks for the main deck to be able to summon out. And Magnet Conversion, you target up to 3 level 4 lower Magnet Warrior monsters in your graveyard, add them to your hand, and during either player's turn, except the turn where it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish it, then target 1 of your banished level 4 Magnet Warrior monsters and special summon it. So those resource grabs can just help, especially if we add cards like Beta and then Gamma, because then we can summon out Gamma after we add them back, summoning out Beta, and then have that additional search continue from there also. And that is it for the main deck. When I move on to the extra deck, I run 1 copy of our Empyrean, the Magnum Conductor Battlebot. You need Valkyrion and Berserkion to make this card. I only run the 1 because you're really not probably going to make it more than once if you can successfully do so. It must be fusion summoned with the above materials, cannot be special summoned by other ways. Once per turn during the player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell or trap or monster effect, you can negate the activation and destroy that card. And if this face-up card in the owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon both 1 Valkyrion and 1 Berserkion from your hand or deck, ignoring their summoning conditions. So being able to grab those 2 Magna Warriors back onto the field is immensely strong, not only for the fact that you have these 2 bigger boss monsters on the field to then use, but you also have their tribute effects to grab the other Magna Warriors if they're in the graveyard or banished. And then for the Link monsters, 1 copy of Cross Sheep, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Mrs. Radiant, 1 also the Earth Charmer, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, along with 1 Barricade Board Blocker, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the 1 Boral Sword for the Link monsters. For the Xyz monsters, 1 copy of Leviair, 1 Gallant Granite, 1 Tornado Dragon, 1 Baguska. For the bigger Xyz monsters being 1 number 38. You don't make it as often, but I still like to have the resource available in the deck. And the 1 Zeus to finish off our extra deck. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, the big setup, I would say, is just your initial hand and what may open up with your additional Magnet Warrior monsters. If you have Catherine, it makes it all the better. So let's say you have Catherine and your Beta the Electromagnet Warrior in your hand, you can then summon out your Beta to the field, and then use the effect of Beta to then add a level 4 lower Magnet Warrior from your deck to your hand. You can then use this card to be able to search out your go-to Magnet Warrior of choice. If you have an additional Magnet Warrior in your hand, you can search out the Gamma, because then you can discard off the Catherine, using the Gamma to then have your additional normal summon. That'll give you the special summon of your Alpha to the field, and then from there you can add your Berserkion off of them as well. You have the 3 banish, if you wish, right then and there to use for your Berserkion, and then with this card you have the Destruction card. You're just missing the 1 additional Magnet Warrior in your graveyard to do so. So if you keep these 3 Magnet Warriors on the field, let's say, you can then use their play for the summon for the monster that you may want to play on your field for that summon, depending on the play you want to go for, because you remember you have to use the tribute effect on your opponent's turn to then give you that additional Magnet Warrior on the field. Then you can use cards like Delta to send an additional Magnet Warrior to the graveyard, so at least you're setting up other numbers for those plays. You can use the other 2 additional Magnet Warriors as well. So what you could do is you can either set up that Delta Warrior, or you could use that initial play with your 3 Magnet Warriors to go for more of a Monster Swarm play using the tribute. You could get the 3 original Magnet Warriors out, since they are all level 4 Magnet Warriors, and then have the Valkyrion play ready for that following turn. But most of the time you do want to have at least 1 of the Magnet Warriors become that name as well. So you can either go for the Delta the Magnet Warrior and then send the 3rd of the Magnet Warrior to the graveyard, because then you'll have that setup in the graveyard and the initial banish for you to get your Berserkion out, thanks to your Delta being able to use this card as well to summon Valkyrion from your hand or deck, ignoring the summoning conditions, and then have the 3 resources in the graveyard to grab back. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, I always like to update this deck. It's definitely one of the funner decks to come out of Yugi's original deck for sure. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.